together so that we can all participate. What we've done is we've opened this door, and that hallway is available, and hopefully you'll be able to hear us in the hallway. We're also going to do something that I normally would never do, and I've never done it before, is to ask people after they speak to leave the room to allow other people to attend and have the possibility of speaking. Remember, there will be a written record of every word spoken tonight. I have a court reporter here who will take down every word, and I'll put it on e-library so anyone can get it on the internet. All right?
When will that be?
What?
When will that be?
When will what be?
When will it be available?
ACE has to transcribe it and then send it to the commission. And so they're a private contractor, and I don't know when, but usually, my court reporter says 5 days after today. www.ferc.gov, and I'll announce that later. So for now, if we can have people file through that door into the hallway, and I'm actually going to start early because people have already signed the speakers list, and that's the band-aid I've come up with for this problem. So that's the only thing I can think of. So if people go in the hallways, and then people who do go in the hallways, let me know if you can hear us.
What if we get rid of some of the chairs and then we can fit a lot more people standing in the center?
The problem is there's probably a fire code for how many people can be in this room. And like we skip. Oh, and by the way, I did ask for more chairs, and they don't have it.
But that's with the
It says chairs, 356 people chairs.
There you go.
So if you don't have chairs,
You can. It's a different number that you use in the state.
So there are no more chairs available in any situation, but I think sitting on the floor is okay, and I think what I see on the wall is we have a capacity of 300 in this room. Let me know if people in the hall are able to hear us.
there's more room up front if people want to come up front and sit.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that. That's a good idea. You want to come up to the front and sit down like these people, that makes sense to me. And then, like I said, after you have the opportunity to speak, if you would leave, and then someone else, fill the room. That's the only thing I can think of. And like I said, we did try and rent the auditorium. I don't know how we didn't get it. I'm going to say it several times during the speech today, but it's www.ferc.gov, G-O-V. I greatly appreciate your patience and working with us tonight. It's a highly unusual situation.
We care about stopping this boondoggle.
That's right, Doug.
So what we're going to do is I've got a bunch of people who've already signed up to speak, and if you don't mind, we're going to start right now. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I really have to thank you for being here tonight. On behalf of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, we abbreviate that FERC, F-E-R-C, or the Commission, and our federal cooperating agency partners, I'd like to welcome you to this public meeting to take comments on the draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS, that the FERC issued on November 7, 2014 for the Jordan Cove Liquefaction and Pacific Connector Pipeline projects. We abbreviate that as the project. My name is Paul Friedman, and I'm the FERC Environmental Project Manager. With me here tonight, also from the FERC, that's Steve Bush, the rather small person now, and he's the Assistant Project Manager. From the BLM, I have Miriam Livator and Mark Mankiewicz. From the U.S. Forest Service, we have Wes Yamamoto. And in the back, who you may have met when you signed up, I have the two Johns, John Scott and John Crookston. They work for a company called Tetra Tech, which is my third-party contractor. They helped us produce the EIS. The BLM and the Forest Service also has a third-party contractor. That company is called North State Resources, and their representative tonight is Mike Hupp and Paul Hungerford. Let the record show that this meeting began at 5:50 p.m. on Thursday, December 11th, here at, I believe this is the old Medford High School in Medford, Oregon. As you can see, this meeting is being recorded and transcribed by a court reporter on behalf of the FERC so that there will be accurate notes of tonight's proceedings. The court reporter is an employee of an independent company called ACE Federal Reporters, Inc. And ACE is an independent contractor. ACE will sell copies of the transcript at various sliding scale prices beginning from same day to 5 business days after the meeting. If you would like a copy of the transcript prior to it being posted on the FERC website, you must make arrangements directly with ACE. If you would like to speak tonight, and by the way, we are contracted till 11 p.m. So we're going to let everyone speak for 3 minutes each, and we're going to go all the way to 11 o'clock if I need to give as many people an opportunity as possible to say something tonight. Remember, if should something happen and you didn't get called, you may put your comments in the record, and I'll explain how to do that in a little bit. All right, so someone is telling people again that there's room in the front for people who want to come up to the front and sit down. If you want to speak tonight, there's sign-up lists at the back with the Johns. See, the Johns are waving their hands. The production of an EIS is a collaborative effort involving a number of federal cooperating agencies, including the BLM, Forest Service, Corps of Engineers, Department of Energy, EPA, Department of Homeland Security, Coast Guard, Department of Interior, the Fish and Wildlife Service, and Bureau of Reclamation, and the U.S. Department of Transportation. The cooperating agencies had an opportunity to review an administrative draft, and some agencies contributed text to the DEIS. For example, the BLM and Forest Service and their third-party contractor wrote sections of the DEIS related to their evaluation of proposed amendments to their individual district or national forest land management plans to make provisions for the pipeline. In a few minutes, the BLM and Forest Service representative will explain the actions of their agencies. I would like to thank the federal cooperating agencies for their participation in the environmental review process. FERC is an independent federal agency that regulates, among other industries, the interstate transportation of natural gas. We were originally known as the Federal Power Commission when we were created by Congress in 1920. At the head of our agency are 5 commissioners appointed by the President of the United States and confirmed by Congress. Steve and I were not selected by the President. We are mere civil servants. We're called staff, and staff makes recommendations to the decision makers who are the 5 commissioners. The commissioners have not yet made a decision about this project. However, you can read staff's recommendations in section 5.2 of the DEIS. In accordance with the Energy Policy Act of 2005 and the Natural Gas Act, the FERC is the lead federal agency responsible for authorizing onshore LNG or liquefied natural gas terminals and interstate natural gas transmission facilities. We are also the lead agency for compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, which we call NEPA. Our DEIS was prepared to satisfy the Council on Environmental Quality's regulations for implementing the NEPA. The federal cooperating agencies can adopt our EIS for their regulatory needs and to comply with the NEPA. However, each individual agency would present their own conclusions in their respective records of decision. The FERC's record of decision is called a commission order, and like I said before, there is no decision made by the FERC yet about this project. The commissioners will make their decision after we produce a final environmental impact statement. On May 21st, 2013, Jordan Cove Energy Project LP, which we call Jordan Cove for short, filed an application with the FERC under Section 3 of the NGA, docket number CP 13-483-000, seeking authority to construct and operate an LNG export terminal at Coos Bay in Coos County, Oregon. Jordan Cove intends to produce about 6 million metric tons per year of LNG from a supply of about $1 billion cubic feet of natural gas for shipment by third-party vessels to customers around the Pacific Rim. Jordan Cove already has permission from the Department of Energy to export to both free trade agreement and non-free trade agreement nations. The main facilities at the terminal would be a 420 megawatt power plant, a natural gas processing plant, 4 liquefaction trains, 2 LNG storage tanks, a transfer pipeline and loading platform, a marine slip with docks for LNG vessels and tugboats, and an access channel connecting to the existing Coos Bay navigation channel. Pacific Connector Gas Pipeline LP, or Pacific Connector, filed its application with the FERC in docket number CP 13-492-000 under Section 7 of the NGA on June 6, 2013. Pacific Connector seeks authority to construct and operate a 232-mile-long, 36-inch diameter, underground, welded steel transmission pipeline between the mainland hub and the Jordan Cove terminal. The pipeline route would cross portions of Klamath, Jackson, Douglas, and Coos counties. Near Malin, Pacific Connector would connect to the existing pipeline facilities of Gas Transmission Northwest, or GTN, and Ruby Pipeline, or Ruby, to obtain natural gas produced in Western Canada and the Rocky Mountains. For full disclosure, Ruby is partly owned by one of the partners of Pacific Connector. GTN is owned by a company called TransCanada. The Pacific Connector pipeline would have a design capacity of about 1.07 BCF/d with 0.04 BCF/d dedicated for delivery to the existing Northwest Pipeline Grants Pass lateral to serve customers in Oregon. Again, for clarification, Northwest is owned by one of the partners of Pacific Connector. Other facilities associated with the Pacific Connector pipeline include a 41,000 horsepower compressor station near Malin, 2 receipt meter stations for GTN and Ruby within the compressor station track, the Clark's Branch delivery meter station at the interconnection with Northwest, a delivery meter station at Jordan Cove, 5 PIC launchers and receivers, 17 mainline valves, and 11 communication towers. Jordan Cove would receive its natural gas supplies from the Pacific Connector pipeline. Therefore, although these are 2 separate applications before the FERC by 2 separate companies, we see them as connected actions. And we evaluated the environmental impacts of both Jordan Cove and Pacific Connector together in one comprehensive DEIS. The 2 companies also share some ownership overlap. I want to make it clear that the project is being proposed by 2 private companies. The FERC is not a proponent of this project. The companies came up with a design for their location of their facilities, and the FERC will analyze the environmental impacts associated with the construction and operation of those facilities. We are advocates for the environmental review process. We are not advocates for the project itself. The commissioners will make their own independent decision about whether this project has benefits and would be in the public interest, and that decision will be made in the future. The EIS is not a decision document. During our review of the project, we assembled information from a variety of sources, including the applications and data responses by the companies, public input, information obtained from other federal, state, and local resource agencies, and our own research. Our analysis can be found in the DEIS. We sent copies of our DEIS out to our environmental mailing list, which includes elected officials, federal, state, and local agencies, regional environmental groups and non-governmental organizations, affected landowners, Indian tribes, commenters, other interested parties, local newspapers and libraries, and parties to the proceeding. Paper copies were only sent to those who requested them in response to our notice of intent. We have no more paper copies available. All others received a compact disc or CD version. Anyone who received a copy of the DEIS will also be sent a copy of the FEIS. You do not have to sign up again. However, if you did not receive a copy of the DEIS and you want a copy of the FEIS, please go to the back of the room, see the Johns, and sign up at their table on our environmental mailing list. At that time, you can request a hard copy if you want one. About 72 miles of the pipeline is on federal land, including 40 miles of BLM land, 31 miles of Forest Service land, and less than 1 mile of reclamation land. At this point, I'd like to introduce Miriam Liberatore, representing the BLM and the Forest Service, and she will explain what those agencies do with regard to this project.
How's that for sound? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
On the whole? Okay, good. Thank you, Paul. I'm Miriam Liberatore. I work for the BLM here at the Medford District, and I'm the BLM's project manager for the Pacific Connector Pipeline Project. BLM and Forest Service have a role on this project because of the projects crossing over federal lands. And we are, just for clarification, we are not involved in the liquefaction plant at Coos Bay, and we're not involved in where the pipeline crosses over private land. But we are involved in where the pipeline crosses over federal lands, and that would be lands managed by the BLM, the Forest Service, and the Bureau of Reclamation. As it's proposed in the DEIS, the project would cross, as Paul said, about 70 miles, 71 miles of federal land, 40 for the BLM, 30 for the Forest Service, and less than 1 for facilities managed by Reclamation. In order to cross those lands, Pacific Connector needs a right-of-way grant to cross over federal land, and that's the same as anybody else that wants to cross federal land, including many of you probably have a driveway over BLM. And so they have applied to BLM for a right-of-way grant at this time. BLM, in order to make a decision, well, BLM is the agency that will make a decision to either deny or issue the grant, and we get that authority from the Mineral Leasing Act of 1920. So BLM will make the decision, and Forest Service and Reclamation will concur with our decision, either to grant or deny. At this point, no decision has been made by any of the agencies about the right-of-way grant, and that decision won't be made until after the FEIS has been published and after other conditions that we need to make the decisions have been met. So again, there's no decision made at this time. The pipeline, if it's constructed, would not conform to the current land management plans that BLM and Forest Service use to administer our lands. And in order to be considered for a right-of-way grant, it has to conform. So before we can even consider a grant, our land management plans would need to be amended so that the project can conform. And in this project, in the DEIS, there is a description of proposed land management plan amendments that would allow that to happen. The amendments we would consider are detailed in the draft EIS. For the BLM, it's affecting the Coos Bay District, Roseburg District, and Medford District, and the Klamath Falls Resource Area of the Lakeview District. And for the Forest Service, these are on the Umpqua National Forest, the Rogue River National Forest, and the Wainema National Forest. There are 20 amendments proposed in the DEIS. 4 of them are for BLM land management plans, 15 of them are for the Forest Service's plans, and then 1 is a joint amendment for both agencies. These address issues that have to do with our survey and manage guidelines, and for habitat retention for the northern spotted owl and the marbled murrelet, and for other environmental conditions having to do with soils, visual quality objectives, riparian areas, and also a proposal to convert some of our matrix acreage, which is where we have our timber base and other uses, over to late successional reserves. And that's to make up for the direct loss of late successional reserve acreage that would be in the pipeline footprint. The decisions that the BLM and Forest Service need to make require us to follow the NEPA process. And so as cooperating agencies, we'll be using FERC's EIS to do that. So our proposed activities are being disclosed under FERC's EIS. If you want to comment on them, you can comment on them tonight, like I'm sure that's why some of you are here. And if you prefer to, you can comment in writing. But Paul will tell you the process for doing so. This is not BLM's or Forest Service's EIS, and so the comments would not come to us. So pay attention to the process, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. We're glad you're all here tonight. This is process, we honor process, and we want to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. We are now at the beginning of a 90-day period for taking comments on the DEIS. Comments can be filed with the Commission up until February 13th, 2015. The FERC keeps the consolidated record for these proceedings, so please do not send your comments to the BLM or the Forest Service. Also, do not send me emails. Apparently, there's an organization out there telling the public false information, and as a result, many people are sending me emails. None of those will be considered by the FERC. Only comments filed in the record are considered by the FERC. I'm going to now tell you how to do that. First, you can go to our website at www.ferc.gov and use what we call the e-comment feature on the FERC webpage. Second, you can use the e-filing feature on the FERC webpage. Third, you can write a letter to the Secretary of the Commission at 888 First Street Northeast, Washington, D.C. 20426. Remember to always mark your comments with the docket number CP13-483-000 for Jordan Cove and CP13-492-000 for Pacific Connector.
Everybody got that?
Okay, wait a second. I'm going to tell you how you can find us. Recite listening to me. What?
Can you repeat that address?
I'm going to tell you right now how you can find all of this information on the internet. You can go to www.ferc.gov, hit Documents and Filings, go to the e-library link, and look up our Notice of Availability, which was issued on November 7th, 2014, and everything I just said is on that NOA or Notice of Availability. The FERC's address is 888 First Street, Northeast, Washington, D.C. 20426. So not only am I saying it now, you can look it up on the internet. Just look up our Notice of Availability. Many of you will probably sent that or saw it when we issued it. All comments received, whether written or oral, will be given equal weight by the FERC staff and will be addressed in our final EIS. It does not matter if your comments were transmitted on the first day that the DEIS was issued on November 7th, or on the last day we take comments on February 13th, 2015. While the purpose of tonight's meeting is to take verbal comments on the DEIS, given the limited time each presenter will have here at this forum, I urge you to send more detailed comments to the FERC, either electronically or in writing. The more specific your comments, the better we can address your concerns. Comments such as, I'm in favor of the project, or I'm against the project, are not particularly helpful. This is not an election, it's not a popularity contest, it's an environmental review, and we want to know the environmental issues that are important to you so that we can address them better in the FEIS. After the comment period ends on February 13, 2015, the FERC staff and our third-party contractor, together with the federal cooperating agencies, will review all the comments and address them in the FEIS. The FERC will issue a revised notice of schedule in the very near future that will present a new date for the issuance of the FEIS and the 90-day period for federal authorizations. No decision about approving or not approving the project has been made at this time. The EIS is not a decision document. Only after taking into consideration the findings found in the FEIS will the Commission make their decision looking at both environmental and non-environmental factors such as market tariffs and rates. If the Commission authorizes the project in an order, only parties to the proceeding, known as interveners, may legally question that decision. The FERC's requirements for filing a motion to intervene can be found under Title 18, Code of Federal Regulations, Part 385.12. While the period for filing a motion to intervene has passed, the Commission will consider requests for late intervention with cause. Typically, affected landowners and those with legitimate environmental concerns who cannot be represented by another are considered to have good cause for intervention. However, simply filing comments will not give you intervener status. But you do not need to be an intervener to have your environmental comments considered. An intervener may seek a rehearing on the commission order. If the commission decides to authorize this project, construction may not begin until Jordan Cove and Pacific Connector obtain all other necessary federal permits and approvals. At a minimum, this includes things like biological opinions from Fish and Wildlife and National Marine Fisheries Services under the Endangered Species Act, a right-of-way grant by the BLM under the Minerals Leasing Act with concurrence from Forest Service and Reclamation, permits from the Corps of Engineers under Section 10 of the Rivers and Harbors Act and Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, water quality certification under 404 of the Clean Water Act issued by the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, permits under the Clean Air Act also issued by the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and a determination by the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development that the project would be consistent with the Coastal Zone Management Act. In addition, the Energy Facilities Siting Council of the Oregon Department of Energy must approve the proposed South Dune Power Plant, which is associated with Jordan Cove's terminal. Jordan Cove and Pacific Connector must document that all pre-construction conditions found in the FERC's order have been satisfied before we allow construction to begin. All construction activities would be monitored by FERC staff and the staffs of the federal land managing agencies. Now is the best part of the meeting, when you, the public, get an opportunity to speak. I remind you, the purpose of this meeting is to hear public comments on our DEIS. In general, I will not be responding to your comments tonight unless you ask an administrative question that I happen to know the answer to. Otherwise, I will just be listening, and we will address your comments in the FEIS after we have conducted the appropriate research.
Is there more room up front for people?
There actually is a little bit more room up front, yes.
Especially if you can sit on the floor.